She disappeared without a trace, taking with her the biggest secret of her life. 3 years later, she returned. And when the powerful heir of the Korean mafia discovered the truth about his hidden son, what he did left everyone in tears. 3 years. That's how long she'd been gone. 3 years since Amara walked away from the city that nearly swallowed her whole, from the man whose touch still burned in her memory like a brand she couldn't erase. She didn't want to come back. But when your sister is dying and there's nowhere else to turn, pride becomes a luxury you can no longer afford. The cafe was small, tucked between glass towers that scraped the sky. She tied her apron with trembling fingers, trying to blend into the background the way she'd learned to do. Invisible. Safe. Forgotten. But you can't hide from a man like Jinwoo Park. Not when he owns half the city. Not when his empire is built on knowing everything, seeing everything, controlling everything. She was wiping down tables when the door opened and the air changed. Everyone felt it. That shift. That silence that falls when predators enter a room. 4 men in black suits. Clean, cold, expensive. And then him. He walked like gravity had no claim on him. Like the world rearranged itself to accommodate his presence. Dark suit. Darker eyes. A face carved from stone and shadow. Beautiful in the way a knife is beautiful. Sharp. Deadly. Mesmerizing. Jinwoo Park, underground king, crime lord, the man they whispered about in basements and boardrooms alike, the man whose child she'd hidden for 3 years. Amara's hands stopped moving. The cloth fell from her fingers. Their eyes met across the crowded cafe, and time fractured. His expression didn't change, but something flickered behind those cold, dark eyes. Recognition, disbelief, and something else. Something that made her heart slam against her ribs like a prisoner trying to escape. He didn't need to say her name. She already felt like she was drowning. Table for 5. His voice cut through the noise, smooth as silk and just as dangerous. By the window. She wanted to run. Instead, she nodded and led them to the table, feeling his gaze burn holes through her spine. When she set down the menus, his hand caught her wrist. Gentle, firm, possessive. You disappeared. 3 words. They held 3 years of questions, accusations, and something that sounded almost like pain. I had to, she whispered. His jaw tightened. We need to talk. There's nothing to... Amara. The way he said her name made her knees weak. After your shift. My car will be waiting. It wasn't a request. It was never a request with men like him. She pulled her hand away and walked back to the counter, feeling his eyes follow her like shadows that wouldn't let go. Outside, rain began to fall, and somewhere across the city their son was waiting for her to come home. The black Mercedes waited like a sleek predator at the curb. Amara stood in the rain, apron clutched in her hands, every instinct screaming at her to run. But she'd been running for 3 years, and exhaustion has a way of making cowards out of the bravest hearts. The door opened from inside. Jinwoo sat in shadows and expensive leather, his face unreadable in the dim light. Get in. She climbed inside, and the door closed behind her like a prison cell. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The rain drummed against the roof. The city blurred past the windows in streaks of neon and darkness. Where did you go? His voice was quiet, controlled, but she heard the edge beneath it, the barely restrained fury. Away. For 3 years. Yes. Why? She looked at him then, really looked at him. He hadn't changed, still beautiful. Still terrifying. Still the man who could command death with a whisper and never lose sleep over it. Because your world kills people like me, she said simply. His eyes narrowed. I would have protected you. From everyone but yourself. The words landed like bullets. She saw them hit. Saw something flicker across his face before the mask slid back into place. You don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice was softer now, almost uncertain. Don't I? Amara turned to face him fully. Jinwoo, the night we met, I was serving drinks at your uncle's party. You looked at me like I was human, like I mattered. For one night, I forgot what you were. What you did. And then what? And then morning came and I saw the blood on your shirt. I saw the way your men looked at you. The fear. The worship. I saw what loving you would cost. He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. So you ran. I survived? By hiding. By choosing life over a beautiful death. Something in his expression cracked, just for a second, just enough for her to see the man beneath the monster. You think I would have hurt you? I think your world would have, and I couldn't. Her voice broke. I couldn't let that happen. The car stopped. She hadn't even noticed they were moving. Jinwoo stared at her with those endless dark eyes, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked lost. Where are you staying? That's not Amara. Her name again, softer this time, almost pleading. Let me at least know you're safe. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But the rain was falling harder and she was so tired of running. She gave him an address 3 blocks from where she actually lived. He nodded slowly. I'll have someone watch the building. Keep you safe. I don't need… Yes, he interrupted, and now his voice was steel again. You do. Because you came back to my city, and that means you're mine to protect whether you like it or not. The door opened. One of his men stood waiting with an umbrella. Amara stepped out into the rain, and just before the door closed, she heard him say, This isn't over. She knew. God help her, she knew. Her apartment was small, cramped. Nothing like the luxury Jinwoo probably imagined. But it had a bedroom where her son slept, and that made it a palace. Amara locked the door behind her and leaned against it, heart racing. Mama? She looked up to find Kai standing in the hallway, rubbing his eyes. 3 years old. Beautiful. With his father's dark hair and sharp features, and her warm brown skin and gentle smile. A perfect collision of 2 worlds. Hey, baby. She knelt down and pulled him into her arms, breathing in his scent. Innocence, safety, everything worth protecting. Did you have good dreams? I dreamed about a big car, he mumbled against her shoulder. A black one, like the ones in movies. Her blood ran cold. That's nice, sweetheart. Let's get you back to bed. She tucked him in, kissing his forehead, memorizing his face the way she did every night. Because she knew, had always known, that this borrowed time would run out eventually. Her sister Maya appeared in the doorway. Thin, pale, getting sicker every day. You saw him, Maya said. Not a question. Amara nodded. Does he know? No. He will. Men like that always find out. Not if I'm careful. Maya laughed, bitter and tired. Amara, you came back to his city. You walked into his world. There is no careful anymore. I had to, for you, for the treatment you need. The money is not worth your son losing his mother. Maya moved closer, gripping Amara's shoulders. He's a crime lord. When he finds out you kept his child from him, what do you think he'll do? Amara didn't answer, because she'd asked herself that question 1,000 times in 3 years, and the answer always terrified her. I'll figure something out, she whispered. But that night, as she lay in bed listening to Kai's soft breathing through the thin walls, she knew the truth. Jinwoo Park was a man who owned everything he touched, and she'd given him a son. It was only a matter of time before he discovered what she'd been hiding. And when he did, no amount of running would save her. Across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked the empire he'd built, Jinwoo stood at the window with a glass of whiskey he couldn't taste. 3 years. She'd been gone 3 years. And something about the way she'd looked at him tonight, haunted, desperate, protecting something, made him realize she hadn't just disappeared. She'd been hiding something. His phone buzzed. A message from his head of security. Subject located. Apartment 3B. Not alone. Small child observed. Male. Approximately 3 years old. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattered on the marble floor. And Jinwoo Park, the man who controlled an empire with an iron fist, felt his entire world shift on its axis. He had a son. Jinwoo didn't sleep that night. He stood at his window watching the city breathe beneath him, a living organism of light and shadow, all of it under his control. All of it except the one truth that now burned through his chest like acid. He had a son he'd never held, never seen. A child who existed for 3 years in a world Jinwoo knew nothing about. The rage came first. Hot, blinding, the kind that made men disappear without a trace. She'd stolen from him, hidden what was his, lied by omission for 3 goddamn years. But beneath the rage was something else. Something he didn't have a name for. Something that felt uncomfortably like fear. Sir, His second-in-command, Sung-min, stood in the doorway, careful, cautious. Everyone was always careful around Jinwoo. The surveillance is in place. We have eyes on the building, the woman, and the child. Show me. Sung-min hesitated. Sir, perhaps you should show me. The tablet screen glowed in the darkness. Security footage from across the street angled toward a third-floor window. And there, backlit by warm light, was Amara, holding a small boy, rocking him gently, her lips moving in what might have been a lullaby. The boy's face turned toward the window for just a moment. Jinwoo's breath stopped. It was like looking into a mirror that showed him his own childhood. The same sharp features, the same dark eyes. The same expression, even at 3 years old, of someone observing the world with cautious intelligence. DNA confirmation? His voice sounded strange, distant. We'd need a sample, but sir, look at him. Jinwoo was looking. Couldn't stop looking. What's his name? Sung-min consulted his notes. The sister calls him Kai. Kai. No last name registered. Birth certificate lists father as unknown. Unknown. His son was unknown. A ghost. Unprotected. Vulnerable in ways that made Jinwoo's carefully constructed empire feel suddenly, terrifyingly fragile. I want everything, he said quietly. Medical records. School enrollment, if any. Every place they've lived. Every person they've had contact with. Everything. And the woman? Jinwoo's jaw tightened. Double the security. No one gets within 50 feet of that building without me knowing. And Sung-min? Sir? She doesn't know we know, not yet. Because Jinwoo Park was a man who dealt in information, in leverage, in control. And right now, he needed to understand what he was dealing with before he made his move, before he took what was his. The next morning, Amara woke to Kai's laughter. She found him at the window, nose pressed against the glass, watching the street below with fascination. Mama, look! Same black car from my dream. Her blood turned to ice. She crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled the curtains shut. Kai, what did Mama say about the windows? Stay away 'cause people are busy and don't want to be bothered. He recited it like a prayer. Because it was. The prayer that kept them invisible, safe. Except they weren't safe anymore. She'd felt it since yesterday. That prickling sensation of being watched. The same instinct that had kept her alive in Jinwoo's world 3 years ago. He knew. Or he was finding out. Maya appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm morning. You need to tell him. Are you insane? Amara, he's going to find out anyway. Men like that, they always do. At least if you tell him first, you control the narrative. Control? Amara laughed, bitter and broken. Maya, there is no control with Jinwoo Park. There's only his will and everyone else's compliance. Then run again. With what money? You need treatment. Kai needs stability. I can't just... Then what's your plan? Maya's voice was gentle but firm. Because hiding isn't working anymore. Amara didn't have an answer. She got ready for work in silence, kissed Kai goodbye, and stepped out into a world that felt suddenly full of eyes. The black car was still there, parked across the street like a predator that had all the time in the world. The cafe was busy. Lunch rush. Amara moved through the chaos on autopilot, taking orders, delivering food, smiling at customers who never really saw her. Invisible, the way she liked it. Until the door opened and he walked in. Jinwoo Park, in daylight, without his entourage. Just a man in an expensive suit, moving through the cafe like he owned it. Because he probably did. Men like him owned everything eventually. He sat at a corner table, waited. Amara's manager nudged her. Table 7, go. Her hands were shaking when she approached. What can I get you? He looked up at her with those endless dark eyes, and she saw something different there today. Something calculating, dangerous. Coffee, black, and answers. I don't... Sit down, Amara. I'm working. I bought the cafe this morning. You're taking a break. He said it so casually, like buying entire businesses was something he did before breakfast, which it probably was. She sat. Because what choice did she have? You have a son, he said. Not a question. A statement. The world tilted. I don't know what... Don't. The word cut like a blade. Don't insult my intelligence. I've seen him. I know he's mine. What I don't know is why you thought you could hide him from me. Amara's throat closed. To protect him. From what? From you. From your world. From everything you touch that turns to blood and ash. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been pain if men like him were capable of feeling it. You think I would hurt my own child. I think you wouldn't mean to. I think you'd love him in your way. And then one day someone would use him to get to you. Or you'd want him to follow in your footsteps. Or he'd see something he shouldn't see and lose his innocence before he even knew he had it. Her voice broke. I think your love would destroy him, just like it almost destroyed me. Silence. Long and heavy and suffocating. When Jinwoo finally spoke, his voice was soft, deadly soft. You don't get to make that choice alone. I already did. And now I'm unmaking it. He leaned forward, and she saw the crime lord beneath the beautiful mask. The man who bent the world to his will. That's my son, my blood, mine. And you're going to bring him to me. No. Amara. No. She stood up, trembling but resolute. You can threaten me. You can buy every building I work in. You can follow me everywhere I go. But I will not hand my son over to a man who kills for a living. Our son. The words hung between them like a blade. He's 3 years old, Amara whispered. He likes dinosaurs and pancakes and bedtime stories. He's afraid of thunder and he laughs at everything. He's innocent, Jinwoo. Pure. And I will burn your entire empire to the ground before I let you take that away from him. Something changed in his face then. Something she'd never seen before. Respect. Maybe even admiration. I'm not trying to take him away from you, he said quietly. I just want to know him. Is that really so terrible? Yes. Because knowing you means entering your world. And your world kills people. My world also protects what's mine. We're not yours to protect. He's my son. That makes you mine whether you accept it or not. Jinwoo stood towering over her. I'm giving you 1 week. 1 week to figure out how we do this. And then I'm coming to meet my child. With or without your blessing. He walked out, leaving Amara standing in the middle of the cafe, feeling like the ground had opened beneath her feet. 1 week. 7 days before her carefully constructed world collapsed. 7 days before Jinwoo Park discovered that being a father was infinitely more complicated than being a crime lord. And that love, real love, required a kind of vulnerability he'd spent his entire life learning to destroy. The war began quietly. Jinwoo didn't threaten, didn't demand, didn't use force. He simply appeared. Everywhere Amara went, there he was. Walking past the cafe windows at lunch. Standing across the street when she left work. Sitting in the park where she sometimes took Kai to play. Never approaching, never speaking. Just watching. A constant reminder that he was waiting. That the clock was ticking. He's following us, Maya said on the third day, peering through the curtains at the black Mercedes that had become a permanent fixture on their street. I know. This is psychological warfare. I know. So what are you going to do? Amara looked at Kai, who was building a tower of blocks on the floor, completely oblivious to the storm gathering around them. I don't know. But that wasn't entirely true. She knew exactly what she had to do. She just didn't know if she was strong enough to do it. On the 5th day, Amara made her decision. She left Kai with Maya and went to the address Sungmin had given her, a high-rise in the financial district, all glass and steel and money. The penthouse, of course. Crime lords didn't live anywhere but the top. The elevator opened directly into his apartment. No hallway, no buffer. Just suddenly, completely in his space. It was exactly what she'd expected. Minimalist, expensive, cold. Everything in shades of black and gray and chrome. No warmth, no personality, no hint that a human being actually lived here. Jinwoo stood at the window, hands in his pockets, backlit by the setting sun. I was wondering when you'd come, he said without turning around. We need to talk. I've been trying to talk for 5 days. By stalking me? By giving you space to come to the right decision. Now he turned, and the sunset painted him in shades of amber and shadow. Beautiful. Terrifying. Did you? Amara took a breath. If I let you meet him. There are rules. Something flickered in his expression. Hope, maybe. I'm listening. You don't tell him who you are. Not yet. Not until I'm sure. Sure of what? That you won't hurt him. That this isn't just about ownership or pride or whatever drives men like you? His jaw tightened. Men like me. You know what you are, Jinwoo. And what's that? Dangerous. To my enemies. Never to him. He moved closer and she forced herself not to step back. Do you really think I'd hurt my own son? I think you hurt everyone eventually. Even the people you don't mean to hurt. Her voice softened. Even the people you love. The words landed. She saw them hit, saw something in his eyes that looked almost like grief. You think I loved you? His voice was quiet. I think you wanted to. I think that's why you let me leave 3 years ago. Because some part of you knew I was right to run. Silence. Long enough that she thought maybe she'd gone too far. Then, what are your other rules? She almost smiled. Almost. You meet him in public. Neutral territory. I'm there the whole time. And if I say it's over, it's over. No arguments. No following us home. No surveillance. I can't promise no surveillance. Someone tried to kill me last month. Everyone connected to me is a target. Her blood ran cold. Then this was a mistake. I should never have... But, he interrupted, I can promise the security will be invisible. He'll never know. Neither will you, most of the time. And it's not negotiable, Amara. You came back to my city. Whether you like it or not, that makes you part of my world. And my world requires protection. She wanted to argue. But the truth was, she'd known this was part of the deal. Had known it the moment she stepped off the bus 3 weeks ago. You don't enter a crime lord's territory without entering his protection. Fine. Tomorrow, the park on 5th Street, 3 o'clock, 1 hour. That's all you get. And if it goes well, then maybe we do it again, maybe. But Jinwoo. She met his eyes, letting him see the steel beneath her fear. The first time you frighten him, the first time I see him become afraid of you, we disappear. And this time, you'll never find us. It was a bluff. She had no money to run, no resources, no way to vanish the way she had before, but he didn't need to know that. Jinwoo studied her for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock. I'll be there. She turned to leave. Amara. She stopped. Does he ask about me? About his father? The vulnerability in his voice nearly broke her, because it reminded her of the man she'd met 3 years ago. The one who'd looked at her like she was something precious, before she'd learned what his hands were capable of when the sun went down. Sometimes, she admitted, I tell him his father lives far away, that he loves him but can't be here. You told him I love him? His voice was strange, rough. All children need to believe they're loved, even by ghosts. She left before he could respond, before she could see if her words had hurt him, before she could admit that some part of her, some stupid, self-destructive part, still remembered what it felt like to be held by him. That night, Amara lay awake staring at the ceiling, trying to prepare for tomorrow. Trying to prepare for the moment her son met his father. Trying to prepare for the inevitable moment when Jinwoo Park looked at Kai and saw not just a child, but an heir, a legacy, a weapon. Because that's what children were in his world. Tools to be sharpened, assets to be protected, extensions of power and dynasty and control. She'd seen it at the party where they'd met. Jinwoo's own father treating him like a business investment. Cold, critical, measuring his worth by his ruthlessness. And she'd sworn, that her son would never know that kind of love. But now the choice was being taken from her. Now Jinwoo knew. And men like him didn't let go of what belonged to them. In his penthouse, Jinwoo stood at the window, holding a glass of whiskey he'd forgotten to drink. Tomorrow he would meet his son. Tomorrow he would look into the eyes of a child who existed because of one night 3 years ago when he'd let his guard down. When he'd let himself want something beyond power and control and fear. He'd wanted her. Amara. With her quiet strength and defiant eyes and the way she'd looked at him like he was just a man. Not a crime lord. Not a killer. Just a man. And he'd taken what he wanted. Because that's what men like him did. He just never expected the consequences to have his eyes and her smile and a name that meant free in a language he didn't speak. Kai. His son's name was Kai. Tomorrow, everything would change. He just didn't know yet that it would change him most of all. The park was neutral territory. Families scattered across green grass like paint drops on a canvas. Children on swings, their laughter carrying on the spring breeze. The smell of hot dogs and fresh-cut grass and normalcy so thick it almost hurt to breathe. Jinwoo sat on a bench wearing jeans and a plain black shirt. No suit. No entourage visible, though he knew Sung-min and 3 others were positioned around the perimeter. Just a man who looked almost human, except for the eyes. Always the eyes. Dark. Watchful. Missing nothing. He'd been sitting there for 20 minutes, watching families, studying fathers with their children. Trying to understand the language of it, the casual touches, the easy laughter, the uncomplicated love. Everything he'd never had. Everything he'd never thought he wanted. Until now. He saw them coming from across the park. Amara in a yellow sundress that made his chest ache with memory. She'd worn yellow the night they met. Said it reminded her of home, of sun on African soil, of warmth. And beside her, holding her hand with the fierce grip of someone who'd learned early that people disappear, a small boy in a blue dinosaur shirt. Kai, his son. Jinwoo forgot how to breathe. The boy was beautiful in the way children are when they carry the best of both parents. All dark hair that caught the light like silk. Sharp features that would one day be devastating but were now just soft with childhood. And those eyes, God, those eyes, cautious and intelligent and taking in everything with the wariness of someone who'd learned that not everything was safe. Just like Jinwoo at that age. Just like Jinwoo now. They stopped a few feet away, close enough to speak, far enough to run if necessary. Amara crouched down to Kai's level, her sundress pooling around her like sunshine-made fabric. She spoke softly, words Jinwoo couldn't hear but could guess. Be polite. Be careful. Remember you can say no. The boy listened with serious attention, nodded once, then looked up at Jinwoo with frank curiosity. No fear yet. Jinwoo wanted to keep it that way. Hi, Kai said. His voice was small, sweet, completely innocent. The kind of voice that didn't know yet how cruel the world could be. Jinwoo's carefully constructed composure shattered like glass under pressure. Hi, he managed. His voice sounded strange even to his own ears. Too soft. Too rough. Too full of emotions he didn't have names for. I'm Jinwoo. That's a funny name. No malice, just observation. The honesty of children who haven't learned to lie yet. Despite everything, the tension, the fear, the weight of 3 years of secrets, Jinwoo almost smiled. It's Korean. My family is from Korea. Oh. Kai thought about this, his little face scrunching up with concentration. Mama says I'm African and Korean. What's African? Amara's eyes met Jinwoo's over their son's head, sharp, warning. Protecting even now. Always protecting. Jinwoo chose his words carefully. It means your mama's family comes from a beautiful place far away, with amazing people and incredible culture and history that goes back thousands of years. That sounds nice. Kai swung their joined hands a little. Did you know my mama before? The question was innocent. The implications were not. Jinwoo felt Amara tense beside their son, preparing to intervene, to protect, to lie if necessary. Yes, he said honestly. A long time ago. Are you my mama's friend? Friend. Such a simple word. Such an impossible question. Were they friends? They'd been lovers for one night. Strangers for 3 years. Now they were. What? Co-parents? Adversaries? Something without a name? I'd like to be, Jinwoo said. If that's okay with you. Kai considered this with the seriousness of someone 3 times his age. Weighing, measuring, already learning to read people the way Jinwoo had learned to read threats. Smart kid. His kid. Do you like dinosaurs? The change in subject was so abrupt, so perfectly childlike, that Jinwoo felt something crack in his chest. A wall he'd built brick by brick since childhood. A defense against caring too much about anything. I don't know much about them, he admitted. Maybe you could teach me? Maybe you... Kai's face lit up like someone had turned on the sun. Really? You really want to know? Really. Can I sit with you? The question was directed at Amara now, checking, making sure. Good. He should always check with his mother, should always know she was his safe place. Amara hesitated. Jinwoo saw the war in her eyes. The fear battling with hope. The desire to protect warring with the knowledge that their son deserved to know his father. Finally, she nodded. For a little while. Kai climbed up on the bench, leaving a careful space between them. Not quite touching, still wary, still uncertain. Smart kid, so damn smart. And just like that, the boy started talking. About T-Rexes and how they were apex predators but probably had feathers, which was weird to think about. About velociraptors being smaller than in the movies but smarter, hunting in packs like wolves. About triceratops and their massive frills that were probably for display, not just protection. About which ones were predators and which ones were prey, and how the whole ecosystem worked together until the asteroid came and changed everything. That's the sad part, Kai said, his voice dropping to a whisper like he was sharing a secret. They didn't do anything wrong, they were just living. And then one day, everything ended. Boom. Gone. Jinwoo listened to every word, watched every expression, memorized every gesture, the way Kai's hands moved when he talked, the way his eyes lit up with passion, the way he leaned forward when he was excited, and felt the foundation of his carefully ordered world begin to crack. Because this wasn't what he'd expected. He'd expected to feel ownership, possession, pride in passing on his legacy, the satisfaction of knowing his bloodline continued. Instead, he felt terror. Pure, absolute bone-deep terror at how small his son was, how fragile, how easily the world could break him, how Jinwoo's world specifically could destroy him. But you know what's cool? Kai continued, oblivious to the existential crisis happening in the man beside him. Scientists think maybe dinosaurs aren't really gone. Maybe they just changed. Maybe they became birds. So like when you see a pigeon or a chicken, you're kind of seeing a dinosaur. Isn't that amazing? It is, Jinwoo said, and meant it. Because in that moment, listening to his son explain evolution and extinction with passionate seriousness, everything was amazing. Kai smiled, bright, trusting, completely without guile. And Jinwoo felt something shift inside him, something fundamental, something that changed the axis his world spun on. Your shirt is nice, Kai said suddenly, reaching out to touch the fabric experimentally. Soft, curious, testing boundaries. Mama says I can't have nice clothes because they're expensive. The words were casual, matter of fact, no complaint in them, just stating reality the way children do before they learn to hide their circumstances. But they hit Jinwoo like bullets. His son couldn't have nice clothes because Amara was working as a waitress, struggling, hiding, living in a cramped apartment where they could hear their neighbors through thin walls. All because she'd been protecting this beautiful, perfect child from him, and she'd been right to do it. Maybe I could get you a dinosaur shirt, he offered carefully, glancing at Amara for permission. If your mama says it's okay, one with a T-Rex, the biggest T-Rex they make. Kai's eyes went wide, wider, like someone had offered him the world. A real one? With a T-Rex that looks scary but not too scary? Exactly like that. Mama, can I? Please. I promise I'll take really good care of it. I'll only wear it on special days and I'll keep it clean and… Kai. Amara's voice was soft, conflicted. Jinwoo heard everything she wasn't saying. One shirt, that's all. Yes. Kai bounced on the bench, unable to contain his excitement. And then, suddenly, unexpectedly, he hugged Jinwoo's arm, just wrapped his small arms around it and squeezed. Jinwoo stopped breathing. His son was touching him, trusting him, choosing in this moment to be close to him. The crime lord who'd ordered deaths with a phone call. The man whose hands were stained with blood that would never wash clean. The monster Amara had been right to run from. And yet here was this child, innocent and pure, hugging his arm like it was the most natural thing in the world. You smell nice, Kai said matter-of-factly, his voice muffled against Jinwoo's sleeve. Like Mama's coffee, but fancier, and like, I don't know, like expensive stuff. Jinwoo's voice came out rough, broken. Thank you. Amara watched them with an expression Jinwoo couldn't read. Pain, maybe, or fear, or something that looked dangerously like hope beginning to bloom in toxic soil. They sat in silence for a moment. Just the three of them on a park bench while the world moved around them. Other families, other fathers with their children. Normal lives, simple lives. Lives built on foundations that weren't soaked in blood and secrets. Lives Jinwoo would never have. But maybe he could have this. These moments. These hours stolen from the darkness. Do you have to leave? Kai asked quietly. his grip on Jinwoo's arm tightening slightly. Like all the other people? Jinwoo's chest constricted. What other people? The ones Mama says can't stay. The ones who go away and don't come back. Kai's voice was small now, sad. We move a lot. People leave a lot. That's just how it is. Jinwoo looked at Amara. She was staring at the ground, jaw tight, fighting tears. How many times had she hidden them? How many apartments had they fled in the middle of the night? How many times had Kai asked why they couldn't stay, why they couldn't have friends, why everyone always left? How much had his son learned about loss already? 3 years old and already understanding impermanence, already bracing for abandonment, because of Jinwoo's world, because of what he was. I don't want to leave, Jinwoo said. The words came out fiercer than he intended. But that's up to your mama. She's the one who decides what's safe for you. Kai turned to Amara, his eyes pleading. Can he stay? Please? I like him. He's nice. He wants to learn about dinosaurs. Amara's eyes met Jinwoo's across their son's head. In them, he saw years of pain compressed into a single look. Years of fear. Years of making impossible choices to keep their son safe. Years of wondering if she'd made the right call. And something else. Something that looked like the beginning of surrender. Or maybe trust. Or maybe just exhaustion with running. He can visit again, she said carefully, each word chosen with precision. If he wants to. If he keeps his promises. The condition was clear. One wrong move. One hint of danger. One moment of fear in their son's eyes, and she'd disappear again. And this time, Jinwoo believed her. This time, she'd find a way to vanish completely. I want to, he said, his voice raw with something he couldn't name. Very much. The hour passed too quickly. Kai talked about everything and nothing in the way children do. Showed Jinwoo how to properly roar like a dinosaur, deep in the throat, not high-pitched. Explained the difference between herbivores and carnivores with passionate seriousness. Drew pictures in the dirt with a stick, creating elaborate scenes of prehistoric life. And Jinwoo listened to every word like it was scripture, asked questions. Made appropriately impressed noises. Let himself be taught by a 3-year-old who knew more about prehistoric life than he knew about the criminal empire his father controlled. It was perfect. It was terrifying. It was everything Jinwoo never knew he needed. Amara watched them with an expression that shifted between wonder and worry. Sometimes she'd smile at something Kai said. Sometimes her jaw would tighten when Jinwoo got too close, touched too casually, integrated too easily into their son's world. She was waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for the monster to show itself. And Jinwoo couldn't blame her. Because the monster was always there, just beneath the surface. The part of him that solved problems with violence. The part that saw people as assets or threats. The part that had been shaped by a father who loved through cruelty and taught that weakness was death. But today, for this hour, he kept the monster caged. For Kai. Time to go, Amara said finally gently. You have dinner with Auntie Maya, remember? Kai's face fell like the sun going behind clouds. Already? But we were having fun. I know, baby, but Jinwoo has things to do and you need to eat. But, Kai. The mom voice, gentle but firm, the one that said this wasn't negotiable. The boy's shoulders slumped. Then he turned to Jinwoo with those dark eyes so much like his own. Will you come back? The question held the universe. If your mama says yes, Mama has to say yes. Kai grabbed his mother's hand, tugging insistently. Please, he's my friend now. I don't want him to go away like everyone else. Amara's composure cracked. Just for a second. Just enough for Jinwoo to see the guilt there. The weight of every move, every disappearance, every lie told to keep their son safe. We'll see, she said. Which wasn't yes, but wasn't no. It was the best Jinwoo could hope for. Kai hugged him again, quick and fierce and completely trusting. Small arms wrapping around Jinwoo's neck this time, face pressed against his shoulder. Bye, Jinwoo. You're my friend now. That means you can't disappear, okay? Friends don't disappear. Something in Jinwoo's chest broke open, shattered, reformed into something new and fragile and terrifying. Okay, he whispered into his son's hair. I won't disappear. Promise? Promise. It was a lie. In his world, promises meant nothing. People disappeared all the time, permanently. But he wanted it to be true. God, he wanted it to be true. Kai pulled back, smiled one more time, bright and trusting and completely without doubt, and then took his mother's hand. They walked away across the grass. Mother and son, his family. The family he'd never known he had. The family he had no idea how to keep. Jinwoo sat on that bench for a long time after they disappeared into the crowd. Just sat there feeling things he didn't have names for. Things that felt too big for his chest, too sharp for his heart, too dangerous for a man in his position. Love, maybe, or the beginning of it, or the terror of realizing you had something worth losing. Sir? Sungmin appeared from nowhere as he always did, silent, professional, giving nothing away. I have a son. Jinwoo's voice was wondering, broken, like he was just realizing it now. I have a son, and he likes dinosaurs, and he thinks I'm his friend. Yes, sir. He's so small, so vulnerable, anyone could hurt him. The words came faster now, panic bleeding through. Anyone who knows about him could use him to get to me. Do you understand what that means? Which is why we'll protect him, sir. From everyone but me. Jinwoo looked up, and for the first time in years, Sungmin saw actual fear in his boss's eyes. What if I destroy him? What if loving me ruins him? What if being my son is the worst thing that ever happens to him? Sungmin was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Sir, with respect, I think you're already changing. I've worked for you for 8 years. I've never seen you afraid before. And right now you're terrified. Of course I'm terrified. He's 3 years old and he trusts people. Do you know how easy it would be for someone to use that? To hurt him? To take him? Jinwoo stood, pacing now, his control fraying. My father's enemies, my enemies. The families who want my territory. Every single one of them would use an innocent child without hesitation. So we make sure no one does. How? Jinwoo spun to face him. How do I protect him from a world that wants to destroy everything I love? How do I be a father when I learned from a man who treated me like a weapon? Who taught me that love was weakness and weakness was death? Maybe, Sungmin said carefully. You just do what you did today. You show up, you listen. You let him teach you about dinosaurs. You be the father you wish you'd had. Jinwoo laughed, hollow, broken, bitter. It can't be that simple. Maybe it is. And when someone comes for him, when they realize he's my weakness, then we eliminate the threat, like we always do. But that was the problem, wasn't it? Elimination, violence, death. That was Jinwoo's solution to everything. And now he had a son who drew dinosaurs in the dirt and hugged people and believed that friends didn't disappear. How do you protect innocence when you're the thing innocence needs protecting from? That night, Amara tucked Kai into bed while he chattered about his new friend. I like Jinwoo, Mama. He's nice. He listened to everything I said. Most grown-ups pretend to listen, but they're really thinking about other stuff. But he really listened. I could tell. Amara's throat closed. That's good, baby. Can he come back tomorrow? Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Does he have to live far away like you said? The lie she'd told. The story she'd constructed to explain an absent father. Now it was coming back to haunt her. It's complicated, baby. Do you like him? The question was innocent. The answer was anything but. Amara smoothed his hair back. It's complicated. He looked at you funny? Her hand stilled. What do you mean? Like you're made of sunshine and he's been in the dark for a really long time? Kai yawned, fighting sleep. Like in Beauty and the Beast. When the beast looks at Belle and starts remembering how to be nice again. Out of the mouths of babes, children saw what adults tried to hide, saw through the walls and the fear and the carefully constructed distance. Go to sleep, sweetheart. Mama? Yes? I'm glad he came. I always wanted to meet someone who looks like me. Who has the same face shape and the same eyes and the same hair. Someone who's Korean like me. His voice got quieter, sleepy. I don't feel so different now. The words pierced her heart like arrows, because she'd tried so hard to give Kai everything. Love, safety, stability as much as she could while running. But she couldn't give him a father. Couldn't give him someone who shared his features, his heritage, his blood. Couldn't give him that mirror that tells you you're not alone in your skin. And now that man was here. And he looked at their son like he was the sun itself. Like he'd been walking through darkness his whole life, and just now realized light existed. Amara kissed Kai's forehead and left the room, finding Maya waiting in the kitchen. He's happy, Maya observed. I know. And you're terrified. I know. Is Jinwoo what you expected? Amara thought about it. About the man on the bench in jeans and a plain shirt. About the way his hands had trembled slightly when Kai first touched him. About the raw vulnerability in his eyes when their son asked him not to disappear. No, she admitted. He's worse. Worse how? Because the monster I expected I could fight. But a man who looks at our son like that? A man who's trying to be better? That's dangerous in a different way. Maya studied her sister. You still love him. I never loved him. We had one night. You loved who you thought he could be. And now he's trying to become that person. That's scarier than the monster, isn't it? It was. Because monsters were simple. You ran from them. You protected your child from them. You never looked back. But men trying to change? Men looking at their sons with wonder and terror and desperate hope? Those men made you want to believe. And belief was the most dangerous thing of all. Across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked his empire, Jinwoo made calls. First to his accountant. I want a trust set up, anonymous, for a child. Education, medical, housing, everything he could ever need. No questions, and make sure it can't be traced back to me. If anything happens to me, it continues automatically. Second, to his head of security. Triple the surveillance on that building. Rotate teams every 6 hours. Anyone suspicious within a block, I want to know immediately. And I want background checks on everyone in that building. Everyone. Neighbors, landlord, maintenance staff, everyone. Third, to his lawyer. I need custody options. Quiet ones. Nothing that would frighten the mother or alert her to file for full custody herself. I need to know what my rights are, what my options are, if something happens, if she runs again. Because Jinwoo Park was a man who planned, who controlled, who ensured every variable was accounted for, every risk mitigated, every threat neutralized before it could materialize. But he was learning that fatherhood had variables he'd never encountered before. Like how his son's laughter made his chest ache. Like how Amara's distrust was entirely justified and somehow that made it worse. Like how loving someone, really loving them, meant accepting you could lose them. And loss was something Jinwoo had spent his entire life learning to prevent, no matter what it cost, no matter who had to pay. But as he stood at his window looking out over his empire, the buildings he owned, the businesses that paid him tribute, the underground networks that answered to him, he realized something that terrified him more than any threat he'd ever faced. For Kai, he would give it all up. The power, the control. The empire built on fear and blood and careful violence. He would walk away from everything if it meant keeping his son safe. And that made him more vulnerable than he'd ever been in his life. Sungmin entered with a tablet. Sir, we have the background checks. Is there anything dangerous? No, sir. The building is clean. The neighbors are mostly elderly or working families. No criminal records, no concerning associations. Jinwoo nodded. Good. Keep monitoring. And Sungmin? Sir? Start researching schools. The best ones. The kind where kids are safe, where they have security but don't feel like prisoners, where they can be. Normal. Private schools? The best. But nothing that screams wealth. Nothing that would make him a target. Just good schools, where he can learn about dinosaurs and be a kid. Sungmin made notes. Then carefully, Sir, may I speak freely? When have you not? This is going to get complicated. The family will find out eventually. Your father, your uncle, the other bosses. And when they do, I know. They'll see him as either an asset or a liability. They'll want him brought into the family officially, raised properly, taught the business. No. The word came out sharp, final. That's not happening. Sir, you may not have a choice. Once your father knows he has a grandson, he won't know. Jinwoo's voice was cold now. Dangerous. No one in the family knows. No one finds out. This stays between us. Between you, me, and the team directly assigned to their protection. Anyone who talks disappears. Am I clear? Crystal, sir. Good. Jinwoo turned back to the window. Because I will burn this entire empire to the ground before I let my father get his hands on my son. Sungmin left quietly. And Jinwoo stood there alone, looking out over a kingdom he'd built with blood, realizing he'd trade every bit of it for one more hour on a park bench listening to a 3-year-old explain why velociraptors were better hunters than T-Rexes. Somewhere in the darkness of the city, threats were gathering. People who would use an innocent child without hesitation. People who would see Jinwoo's newfound vulnerability and exploit it ruthlessly. People who understood that the fastest way to destroy a king was to threaten his kingdom. And Jinwoo Park had just discovered he had a kingdom worth destroying for. To be continued in episode 2. What Jinwoo doesn't know is that his enemies are watching, and they've noticed something that could destroy everything. The crime lord has found his weakness. His father, the ruthless Don who built the empire on rivers of blood, is beginning to suspect something has changed in his son. In Jinwoo's world, weakness is death, love is leverage, and family is just another word for hostage. As danger closes in from all sides, from rivals who want his territory, from a father who sees grandchildren as property, from a past that refuses to stay buried, Jinwoo and Amara will have to make an impossible choice: run forever or stand and fight. But fighting means bringing Kai into the light. And in Jinwoo's world, the light has always been the most dangerous place to be. Because once his father learns about the grandson he never knew existed, he won't just want to meet him, he'll want to own him, shape him, turn him into the weapon Jinwoo himself was forced to become. And Jinwoo Park, the man who built an empire on ruthlessness, will have to decide, does he have enough humanity left to be the father his son deserves? Or will his love be the thing that destroys them all?